Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are setting aside some of the more abstract theory. We're diving straight into a practical blueprint.
Right.
Our mission is pretty clear. We are going to try and extract the precise code, the instruction set really, for manifesting significant financial results by changing your internal operating system.
And this dive, it treats financial achievement not as, luck or external circumstances, but as a mathematical, almost predictable outcome of universal laws.
Which can feel a little vague.
It can. For a lot of listeners, the ideas of frequency or vibration, they can feel a bit out there. So we're going to unpack how those inner states translate directly into measurable wealth, the kind you can actually calculate.
In the millions.
In the millions.
And to ground this immediately, we really have to start with the foundational story of the late Bob Proctor. He's the main architect of this philosophy. And his starting point, it just perfectly defines that low-frequency state we're talking about. He was, by his own account, just desperately unhappy, sick, and deeply, deeply broke.
It's the perfect baseline, really. His income was only $4,000 annually, but he was carrying $6,000 in debt.
Wow.
You talked about being consumed by scarcity, needing to borrow $2 just for a few gallons of gas. It's a cycle of constant financial anxiety, and that dictates everything.
That anxiety is the core operating system for most people. And then came this moment of, radical self-inquiry. His mentor asked him a question that seems almost absurdly simple when you're facing that kind of debt.
Yeah. He just said, why don't you change your results?
And that's where the psychological barrier is just laid bare, right?
Completely. Proctor admitted that the idea of changing his results, his external financial state, it had just never occurred to him. He was 94% of the population just conditioned to believe his circumstances were fixed.
A consequence of the economy or his job or his background.
Exactly. The circumstances dictated the result, not the other way around. Not that the internal belief dictated the result.
So he decides to test this internal law. And the speed of the shift is, it's genuinely stunning.
It is. Within 1 year, he went from that $4,000 to earning $175,000.
175.
And in less than 5 years, he was earning over $1 million a year.
But here's the part that I think separates this from, traditional business advice. This is the proof point. He did this while cleaning offices.
Cleaning offices.
That just absolutely hammers home the point. The scale of the money wasn't governed by his physical labor or his job title.
Not at all. It was governed entirely by the new internal laws he was operating on. The massive cleaning contracts, the staff, the expansion, all of that external growth is the manifestation.
The result.
The result of that internal shift in frequency. The belief structure changes first, and that change then magnetizes the physical tools and opportunities to make the $1 million a reality.
And that reverse engineering of his success is what we're using as our roadmap today. So let's unpack that roadmap. Let's start with the big picture, the goal state. The foundation here relies entirely on redefining what success even is. What did his mentor call that whole package?
The RHHW model. Pretty simple. Results must encompass happiness, health, and wealth. All three operating together.
Not just one.
You need all three. We focus so intensely on the wealth part because, pragmatically, for most people, money is the #1 source of friction. It just consumes most of their mental bandwidth.
And the sources are pretty clear that only a tiny fraction of people, maybe 4 to 6%, have actually cracked the code of reading money.
Right. For almost everyone else, the process feels like guesswork or just brutal, constant effort.
So why is that number so low?
Well, it's fascinating because earning money, in its essence, is actually rather simple. Money is just a medium. It's a tool for exchanging a product or service in proportion to the value you offer to the world.
So the problem isn't the exchange mechanism itself.
No, the problem is the internal conditioning that blocks you, the individual, from either offering or even accepting that value in the first place.
And the ultimate purpose of achieving that RHHW state, it's not just about accumulating stuff.
No, it's about financial freedom leading to personal expression. It's about removing the constraints of just surviving so you are free to live the life you were designed to live.
Expressing your uniqueness.
As the highest form of creation.
Yeah.
Money just becomes this neutral, objective measure of how successfully you're delivering your service.
This leads us directly to maybe the most critical part of this internal shift, the reevaluation of your personal worth. Before the atomic age, traditional chemistry professors would, they'd analyze the raw materials of a human body, the carbon, the water, the minerals.
And they'd calculate a person's physical value at about $32.
$32. That was the material assessment of human worth. And if your belief system is based on that physical chemical evaluation, well, your results are going to reflect scarcity.
But physics changed everything. It revealed that material isn't solid stuff. It's massive energy locked into patterns.
And that energy revelation led to this stunning recalculation. A scientist from DuPont estimated the latent energetic potential of the average person at $85 billion.
Just stop and let that number land for a moment.
It's unbelievable.
We jump from $32 to $85 billion. And the insight here is profound. The value didn't change because you did anything new. The value changed because our awareness of what you are shifted.
You are not a $32 bag of chemicals.
You are a dynamic, radiating, gleaming form of massive, quantifiable energy.
So the real hurdle to manifesting millions isn't the debt, it's not the job market, it's the internal belief system that's locked onto that $32 valuation.
Exactly. The shift only happens when belief changes. And we have to be really clear about what belief is.
Okay.
No one is ready for a thing until they genuinely believe they can acquire it. This isn't hope. People mistake hope for belief all the time.
That's a huge distinction. Hope is passive, right? It's waiting for external factors to change. A lottery win, a promotion, whatever.
Right. Belief is active. It's an internal certainty that drives action, regardless of what your current bank balance says.
So if your results are poor, it's because you've evaluated your worth or your circumstances poorly.
Precisely. The solution to creating that belief is frequent. Logical reevaluation based on new, superior evidence. You have to internalize the evidence that you are $85 billion of potential energy, not $32 of raw material.
And that change in valuation leads to what might be the most profound realization from this whole study, the law of effort.
It seems counterintuitive on its face. It really does. The observation which comes from studying everything from the Bible to the Bhagavad Gita to modern science is this. No more effort is required in order to aim high on life than is required to accept misery and poverty.
Okay, hold on. If the energy is the same, why does almost everyone seem to spend it on misery? Why is it easier to worry about debt than to visualize prosperity?
Because misery and poverty are the results of the default paradigm. It's the low-frequency state. Worrying is easy because it's a habit. It's what everyone around you is doing.
It's the default setting.
It's the default. The energy spent in the mental gymnastics of fearing failure, fearing bills, is the exact same internal energy required to create and commit to a vivid, high-frequency image of success.
But the conscious mind defaults to worry because of that deep conditioning.
Right.
So let's make that frequency idea practical, because that's often where people get lost in the abstraction. The cell phone analogy you mentioned is perfect for this.
Think about it. You instantly accept that when you dial a specific number, you're dialing a specific energetic frequency.
Right, you don't question it.
You don't question it. The connection is instantaneous across continents because you've aligned your tuner. Life works identically.
So the ideal client, the massive business opportunity, the seven-figure income, they're all energetic potentials existing right now, just on specific frequencies.
Exactly. But if your dominant state is thinking about debt and lack and worry, your internal tuner is operating on a low-frequency AM band. It's all static and noise.
And $1 million reality is on that clear, high-frequency FM band.
And the frequencies are incompatible. You cannot get an FM result while you are constantly offering an AM vibration. You have to consciously change the tuner.
You can visualize and affirm all you want, but if that default tuner keeps snapping back to the AM frequency, nothing happens. This is where most self-help efforts just crash and burn.
They do. The beautiful image held in the conscious mind is often instantly rejected by the deeply fixed paradigm in the subconscious. That invisible barrier, the paradigm, controls the default vibration, keeping you locked in what feels like a comfort zone of mediocre results.
Let's define that, the paradigm. What exactly is this internal autopilot that makes superior knowledge yield inferior results?
The paradigm is, well, it's simply a multitude of habits and ideas fixed in the subconscious mind. It is the operating system that runs 95% of your life. Every reaction, every impulse, every emotional decision. It's all governed by the paradigm.
And to visualize this, there's the stick figure model from Dr. Thurman Fleet. The top half of the mind, the conscious mind, is the gatekeeper.
That's your educated, reasoning, thinking mind.
Yeah.
And it has the crucial power of volition. the ability to accept or reject any idea you're presented with.
But the bottom half, that massive subconscious mind, that's the powerful emotional engine, the creative factory.
And its constraint is also its power. It must accept whatever idea is handed down to it, can't reason. And crucially, it cannot tell the difference between something that is real and something that is vividly imagined and repeatedly impressed upon it. It just executes the command.
And here's the programming problem. That paradigm is formed in infancy, before your reasoning mind, your gatekeeper, even develops.
Exactly. Environmental input from parents, teachers, culture is just dumped right into the baby's mind, totally unfiltered. That creates your core beliefs about money, about worth, about capability.
So if a child repeatedly hears that money is the root of all evil, or rich people are dishonest,
That limiting programming lands directly in the emotional subconscious. Years later, that adult can consciously desire prosperity, but the inferior results are still being controlled by that initial limiting paradigm. It's an internal conflict where the autopilot overrides the conscious driver every single time.
so how do we override it? If the paradigm was formed through repetition of old ideas, the only way out is through repetition of new, higher frequency ideas.
That's the only guaranteed way. The sources give two methods. The first and the most reliable is conscious-based repetition.
This is the 95% mindset philosophy. It requires persistent, focused labor, like Proctor reading Think and Grow Rich every single day since 1961.
That's the level of dedicated effort required to overwrite decades of negative programming. The second path is an overwhelming emotional event, a profound spiritual realization, or a massive crisis.
Which you can't really schedule.
You can't schedule an epiphany. So dedicated, focused repetition remains the actionable path for almost everyone.
Okay, so let's break down the blueprint for that actionable shift into 3 practical steps. Step 1 is trusting your dissatisfaction. Trust want.
This is truly counterintuitive. Most people place the prerequisite on resources. They say, as soon as I get the money, I'll launch the business. But the law is absolute. When you really want something, you will always find the money for it.
Why is the want the prerequisite?
Because that feeling of dissatisfaction, that longing for more, it isn't a financial problem. It's a natural spiritual urge calling you to a higher frequency of expression.
So if you allow that want to become absolute, compelling,
The creative subconscious is then compelled to attract the exact resources needed to fulfill that desire.
Step 2 is the speed of decision. You have to show absolute, non-negotiable commitment to the new reality before the old paradigm. The fear, the doubt, the logic has time to interject.
The historical examples are perfect. Andrew Carnegie gave Napoleon Hill 60 seconds to commit to a 20-year project with zero guaranteed income.
And Hill didn't calculate a thing. He answered in 29 seconds. That's a pure declaration of will over financial computation.
And when President Kennedy pressed Dr. Wernher von Braun on what was needed to put a man on the moon, his answer came in 10 seconds. The will to do it.
Not the budget, not the rockets.
The internal decision. That speed demonstrates alignment with the high-frequency outcome. It bypasses the low-frequency logic of the paradigm.
And that speed of will leads us to the final and maybe most persistent challenge, discipline.
Discipline is defined simply as the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. This means shifting from reacting to life to responding to life.
Reacting is that animalistic, low-frequency behavior. Panic when a big bill arrives, withdrawing into fear.
Right. Responding means you pause, you think, and you plan as a conscious creator, operating consistently from that high-frequency image of success, regardless of the chaos in your current circumstances.
You have to act like the person who earns millions. And when the external world inevitably scrutinizes you, your friends, your family, asking, who do you think you are?
Oh, yeah.
That's the low-frequency world just trying to pull you back into the old paradigm. Discipline is embodying the new frequency despite all that pressure.
And the power of applied, disciplined study, independent of your background, is perfectly shown in the story of Mikey the nanny.
Mikey started with this organization as a caregiver. She came from a farm background, no corporate or specialized education. She was the definition of someone whose $32 worth was constantly being reinforced by external data.
But she was curious, and she was willing to apply discipline. Proctor gave her a difficult philosophical text. Thomas Troard's The Edinburgh Lectures on Mental Science. She didn't just read it once.
She approached it as dedicated, repetitive study.
The exact method required to penetrate and change the paradigm.
Exactly. And by applying those principles, reevaluation, organization, sustained focus, the blueprint we just covered, she went from an administrative assistant to the company's chief operating officer and marketing director.
Responsible for global operations. The change wasn't an external opportunity that just fell in her lap. The resources were always internal, just waiting to be unleashed by a shift in frequency and discipline.
This entire deep dive, from the $32 person to the $85 billion person, it's all about the mechanics of achieving radical financial change.
It requires a sustained strategic application of will.
So to summarize the whole process for you, the listener, it really boils down to three core requirements. First, you have to fundamentally change your belief system through honest reevaluation. Realize your intrinsic value is $85 billion.
And accept that the effort required to demand prosperity is the exact same effort required to accept misery.
Second, you have to understand and consciously tune your energy. You must use repeated mental imaging and emotional commitment to align your internal tuner with that clear, high-frequency signal of your desired financial outcome.
So getting off the AM band for good.
And third, you have to erase that old subconscious programming, that limiting paradigm, through dedicated, consistent repetition of the new idea. Make fast, committed decisions, and exercise the continuous discipline required to think and act like the successful person you are becoming.
This philosophy, it really grants you the ultimate power, the ability to design your own economy by conscious intention, making your results independent of what's happening out there.
And this ties back perfectly to that revolutionary mindset from Buckminster Fuller, who said, "You never change things by fighting your existing reality. You change things by building a new model that makes the existing model obsolete."
You're not struggling to repair the old scarcity model. You are actively building a new wealth model that renders the limitations and the debt of your past totally irrelevant.
So as you move forward from this deep dive, the final provocative thought for you to consider is this. What specific high-frequency wealth model are you going to begin building today? And what fast, committed decision are you ready to make right now to make your existing limitations obsolete?